Hi, my name is Yonghwan Koo. I'm a licensed attorney based in Seoul, Korea. Welcome to my channel. In this video, we'll take a look at how police interviews are conducted in Korea. This video will be divided into three main parts. First, the overall process of a police interview in Korea. Second, questions frequently asked by foreigners about police interviews. Third, the reasons why a foreigner should consider hiring a lawyer before attending a police interview. During a criminal investigation, the police interview not only the suspect, but also the complainant and witnesses. In this video, however, we'll focus only on interviews with the suspect. Now let's get started. First, let's briefly go over how the police interview process works in Korea. Once the suspect of a crime is identified, unless the suspect is already under arrest or detention, the police will send the suspect a summons requesting attendance for the interview. This summons could be sent in written form, but in many cases, it is simply sent in the form of a phone call or a text message. If the suspect is a foreigner, the police often send a text message in Korean along with its translation. Once the suspect receives the summons, he or she should check the details of the allegations and contact the investigator in charge to schedule the date and time of the interview. When the suspect appears at the police station, the investigator may first inform the suspect that the interview will be video recorded and ask if he or she has any objections. This is because under Korean law, the police can video record the interview, but must inform the suspect in advance to do so. After that, the police will also notify the suspect that he or she has the right to remain silent and the right to have a lawyer present during the interview. The investigator will then proceed with the actual interview, starting with questions to confirm the suspect's identity. The questions asked during the interview will cover facts related to the alleged crime and any circumstances that may be relevant. The suspect will be given an opportunity to explain any facts that may work in his or her favor. The interview will be recorded in writing by the investigator. At the end of the interview, the suspect will be given a chance to review the written record. If the suspect agrees that the record is accurate, he or she will be asked to confirm in writing that there are no objections or additional opinions, and then to sign or seal the document. And that will be the end of the interview. The whole interview process is conducted in the Korean language. However, if the suspect has difficulty communicating in Korean, an interpreter will be provided. In many cases, the police will interview the suspect only once. However, in others, they may do so several times. In some cases, the suspect may be confronted with another suspect or a witness. After all investigations, if the police conclude that the allegations against the suspect are true, they will transfer the case to the prosecutor. The prosecutor will then decide whether to indict the suspect or not. In some cases, the prosecutor may request the police to conduct further investigation before making that decision. If the police conclude that the allegations are not true, they will close the investigation without transferring the case to the prosecutor. However, the prosecutor may request the police to reinvestigate the case if he or she considers it necessary. So it should be noted that the police's decision is not always final, and further procedures may still follow. Technically speaking, yes, you can. However, if you keep refusing to appear, the police may decide to arrest you for that reason. So it is generally not advisable to ignore a summons. On the other hand, if the proposed date or time of interview does not work for you, either because of your schedule or you need more time to prepare, you can contact the investigator and ask to reschedule the interview. The law requires that the police interview be recorded in writing. However, whether to have it video recorded is at the police's discretion. So even if you request it, the police may still decline, and even if you refuse it, the police may still video record it anyway, if they consider it necessary. Still, it is worth stating your preference because in many cases, the investigator may not have any preference of his or her own. Interpretation is usually provided in your preferred language. However, if an interpreter in that language is not available, another language you can understand may be used instead. In Korea, public defenders are usually appointed at the trial stage, not during police investigations. So a suspect who is not in custody will not be appointed a public defender for a police interview. The suspect will have to hire a private lawyer to get legal assistance during the interview, and if not, the police interview will proceed without the participation of a lawyer. It depends on the case, but typically lasts a few hours. By law, with few exceptions, the entire process, including breaks and waiting time, cannot exceed 12 hours in total, and the questioning itself cannot exceed 8 hours. In practice, however, interviews rarely last that long unless the case is particularly complex. Yes, you can submit materials or written statements in your favor during the interview or even afterwards. In theory, it can happen, but in practice, it is very rare for a suspect to be arrested or detained during or at the end of a police interview. A foreigner who is under investigation for a serious crime or whose prosecution has been suspended due to unknown whereabouts may be temporarily prohibited from leaving Korea. Normally, the suspect will receive an official notice of such a restriction, but there are some exceptions. So if you want to know for sure whether you're subject to such a restriction, you should visit a local immigration office with the required documents. Even if you have been under criminal investigation, your visa or stay in Korea will not be affected as long as you are later cleared of charges or acquitted. However, if that is not the case, you may face consequences such as deportation, denial of visa extension, or a reduction of permitted stay. Foreigners often feel anxious when summoned by the police because they're not familiar with Korean criminal procedures or their rights. Hiring a lawyer in such a situation can be very helpful, as the lawyer will explain the procedures and advise you on how to exercise your rights properly. Having a lawyer will also help to ease your anxiety, since you'll have a clearer idea of what to expect. Due to language barriers, foreigners may encounter some difficulties when scheduling or discussing matters related to a police interview. A lawyer can contact the police on your behalf, accurately convey your opinions and requests, and ensure smooth communication. It is very important to respond properly at the early stage of a criminal investigation. If you respond poorly or inconsistently at the beginning, the investigation could drag on unnecessarily, or you could face difficulties if your statements later appear contradictory. Consulting a lawyer early on allows you to fully understand your situation and decide how to respond appropriately. For example, by consulting a lawyer, you can fully understand the legal implications of admitting or denying the allegations or exercising your right to remain silent. When interpretation is involved in a police interview, the suspect may find it difficult to know whether the questions and answers are interpreted accurately. Therefore, it would be very helpful for a lawyer, fluent in the interpreted language, to be present at the interview to ensure that both the questions and the answers are conveyed properly and that any misunderstanding or mistranslation can be corrected right away. Another advantage of hiring a lawyer is that at the end of the interview, the lawyer can review the written record to ensure accuracy. This is crucial because the record will be written entirely in Korean. Most importantly, the lawyer will ensure that proper legal procedures are followed and that no unfair treatment or violation of rights occur during the interview. Because police interviews are usually conducted at the early stage of a criminal investigation, you may still need legal advice or representation afterwards. In this light, hiring a lawyer prior to the police interview could be very helpful, as a lawyer who was actually present at the interview will have a vivid understanding of the legal issues and the police's perspective of the case, making it much easier to assist you effectively at the later stage. Further, the lawyer could also provide legal advice on matters beyond the police interview itself, such as how the overall investigation is proceeding and how it could affect your visa or stay in Korea. So in this video, we've looked at first, the overall process of a police interview in Korea, second, questions frequently asked by foreigners, and third, the reasons why a foreigner should consider hiring a lawyer before attending a police interview. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.